Good morning, dear students. Let us learn about adjectives, its meaning, definition, and types. Check out the examples and see how they can be used in sentences effectively. Adjectives are words that describe a person or thing. For example, hard, tall, beautiful, and soft in hard work, a tall boy, a beautiful diamond, and a soft drink. An adjective is a word belonging to one of the major form classes in any of numerous languages, and typically serving as a modifier of a noun to denote a quality of the thing named, to indicate its quantity or extent, or to specify a thing as distinct from something else. As you may already know, adjectives are words that modify or describe nouns. Adjectives do not modify verbs, adverbs, or other adjectives. Examples: Margot wore a beautiful hat to the pie eating contest. 4 dogs may overheat in the summertime. My cake should have 16 candles. The scariest villain of all time is Darth Vader. In these sentences, the adjectives are easy to spot because they come immediately before the nouns they modify. But adjectives can modify nouns even without appearing right before them in a sentence, acting as what's called a subjective complement with the help of a linking verb. A predicate adjective modifies the subject of a sentence. A linking verb is a verb like to be, to feel, to seem, or to taste, that rather than describing an action, helps to describe a state of being or a sensory experience. For example, the cow sure is happy. It smells gross in the locker room. Driving is faster than walking. Adjectives tell what kind of something you're talking about, or how much or how many of something you're talking about. Example: please use 3 white flowers in the arrangement. In this example, 3 and white are modifying flowers. Often when adjectives are used together, you should separate them with a comma or conjunction. Example: I'm looking for a small, good-tempered dog to keep as a pet. My new dog is small and good-tempered. Adjectives come in 3 forms, known as degrees: absolute, comparative, and superlative. Absolute adjectives describe something in its own right. For example, a cool guy, a messy desk, a rigid guideline, an awful situation, a mischievous cat, garrulous squirrels. Comparative adjectives make a comparison between 2 or more things. For example, a cooler guy, a messier desk, a rigider or more rigid guidelines, a more awful situation, a more mischievous cat, more garrulous squirrels. Superlative adjectives indicate that something has the highest degree of the quality in question: the coolest guy, the messiest desk, the rigidest or most rigid guidelines, the most awful situation, the most mischievous cat, the most garrulous squirrels. One way of describing a person or thing is by saying that they have more of a particular quality than someone or something else. To do this, we use comparative adjectives, which are formed either by adding "er" at the end of the adjective or placing more before it. For example, She is more intelligent than her sister. This is a bigger piece of cake. It is also possible to describe someone or something by saying that they have more of a particular quality than any other of their kind. We do this by using superlative adjectives, which are formed by adding s at the end of the adjective and placing the before it, or placing the most before the adjective. For example, he's the most intelligent man I ever met. This is the biggest piece of cake. One-syllable adjectives generally form the comparative by adding er and the superlative by adding est. For example, soft, softer, the softest. Cheap, cheaper, the cheapest. Note that if a one-syllable adjective ends in a single vowel followed by a single consonant, the consonant is double. For example, din, dinner, the dinnest. Big, bigger, the biggest. If an adjective ends in e, this is removed when adding er or est. For example, wide, wider, the widest. Blue, bluer, the bluest. If an adjective ends in a consonant followed by y is replaced by I when adding er or est. For example, dry, drier, the driest. Pretty, pretty, the prettiest. Two-syllable adjectives which end in y usually form the comparative by adding er and the superlative by adding est. Note the change of y to I in the comparative and the superlative. For example, lucky, luckier, the luckiest. Pretty, prettier, the prettiest. Tidy, tidier, the tidiest. Two-syllable adjectives ending in ed, ing, full, or less always form the comparative with more and the superlative with the most. For example, worried, more worried, the most worried. Boring, more boring, the most boring. Careful, more careful, the most careful. Useless, more useless, the most useless. As a general rule, most other two-syllable adjectives also form comparatives and superlatives with more and the most, apart from those ending in y. However, a few two-syllable adjectives can take either er, est, or more the most. Here are three examples. Narrow, narrower, more narrow. The narrowest, the most narrow. Simple, simpler, more simple. The simplest, the most simple. Quiet, quieter, more quiet. The quietest, the most quiet. Adjectives which have three or more syllables always form the comparative and superlative with more and the most. Dangerous, more dangerous, the most dangerous. Difficult, more difficult, the most difficult. Exciting, more exciting, the most exciting. Ridiculous, more ridiculous, the most ridiculous. The only exceptions are some three-syllable adjectives which have been formed by adding the prefix on to another adjective, especially those formed from an adjective ending in y. These adjectives can form comparatives and superlatives by using more, the most, or adding er, est. For example, unhappy, unhappier, the unhappiest, the most unhappy. Unfriendly, unfriendlier, the unfriendliest, the most unfriendly. The following adjectives have irregular comparative and superlative forms. Good, better, the best. Bad, worse, the worst. Far, farther, further, the farthest, the furthest. Old, older, elder, the oldest, the eldest. Comparatives and superlatives of compound adjectives are generally formed by using more and most. Some compound adjectives have a first element consisting of an adjective which would normally form a comparative or superlative in one word, either by adding er, est, or by an irregular form. Such compound adjectives can, therefore, form a comparative and superlative by using these changes to the first adjective, rather than by using more or the most. For example, good looking, better looking, the best looking. Long lasting, longer lasting, the longest lasting. Low paid, lower paid, the lowest paid. Just like other adjectives, comparatives can be placed before nouns in the attributive position. For example, a more intelligent child, the bigger piece of cake. Comparatives can also occur after be and other linked verbs. For example, the street has become quieter since they left. You should be more sensible. Comparatives are very commonly followed by than and a pronoun or noun group in order to describe who the other person or thing involved in the comparison is. For example, I think that she is more intelligent than her sister. I think the portions were bigger than they were last time. Comparatives are often qualified by using words and phrases such as much, a lot, far, a bit, a little, or slightly. For example, you should go by train. It would be much cheaper. Would you be a bit quiet? Two comparatives can also be linked with an to show a continuing increase in a particular quality. For example, the sea was getting rougher and rougher. He became more and more tired as the weeks went by. Like comparatives, superlatives can be placed before nouns in the attributive position or occur after be and other linking verbs. For example, it is the most delicious chocolate cake I ever eaten. Annabelle was the youngest. As shown in the second example, superlatives are often used on their own if it is clear what or who is being compared. If you want to be specific about what you are comparing, you can do this with a noun or a phrase beginning with in or of. For example, Annabelle was the youngest child of the children. Another way of being specific is by placing a relative clause after the superlative. For example, this offer is the best I'm going to get. Note that if the superlative occurs before the noun, in the attributive position, the in or of phrase or relative clause comes after the noun. For example, the best restaurant in town, the best offer I'm going to get. Comparative and superlative forms with er, est, and more than most are always used to talk about a quality which is greater in amount relative to others. If we want to talk about a quality which is smaller in amount relative to others, we use the forms less, that is the opposite of comparative more, and the least, that is the opposite of superlative the most. Less is used to indicate that something or someone does not have as much of a particular quality as someone or something else. For example, this sofa is less comfortable. I've always been less patient than my sister. The least is used to indicate that something or someone has less of a quality than any other person or thing of its kind. For example, is the least expensive way to travel. She was the least intelligent of the three sisters. Thank you so much for watching this presentation. Okay, now we are going to do our Kahoot game. In this Kahoot, we have three parts. The first one is to say if the sentences are true or false. The second one, you have to choose the correct sentence. And in the third one, you have a multiple choice exercise. Let's do it. Okay, the PIN for our game is 6274913 or scan the QR code, please. Okay, let's start. Okay, for this Kahoot, we have on the first place, Alison, on the second place, Montse Gomez, and on the third place, Jimena. Congrats, all of you. Do you have any question, any comment? No? Okay.
No.
Nada más pedirles una cosa. Cuando envíen sus enlaces, el link de sus videos o de sus presentaciones o de sus documentos, por favor, póngalo en dominio público, porque muchas veces me ha solicitado el permiso para poderlo abrir y de esa manera poderlo revisar. Okay. See you next class. Thank you so much for your time and your attendance to this class today. Bye bye.